Hey, what's up guys, my name is Chris and this is the iPhone XS Max, but it's not the full review, it's just part of it. So I decided to do a whole separate video on the most hyped feature of this phone, and that is the camera behind here. Because at this price point, what most people care about is the quality of the camera really. Every time I'm with my friends or I'm out in a mall or I'm walking around and someone notices that I have the new iPhone, the first thing they go is, hey, is that the new iPhone X or XS Max? How is the camera? How good is that camera? Is that camera worth that price? First of all, it's iPhone X, not X. And then also notice that on these phones we are paying $1,000+ for. What most people care about is the quality of that camera. How good is that camera? And for us reviewers, we don't normally pay enough attention to cameras, I included, in the interest of not making the video too long. And so we just normally brush over the camera and talk about how good the camera is and not go into details and talk about the features of these cameras. And so that's why I decided to do this video. And here you are. So welcome to the iPhone XS camera review. So this whole review will be centered around the iPhone XS Max because that's what I have. But everything I say about this camera will also apply to the iPhone XS, the smaller one, because they have the exact same cameras. And so here we go. Ready? Alright. So on paper it's dual cameras at the back, just like last year. But this year we get slightly bigger sensors in that slightly bigger camera module. So the primary camera has a 12 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture. And then the secondary camera is a telephoto camera with a 12 megapixel sensor as well and a f2.4 aperture, a narrower aperture. Both of them are of course optically stabilized, and then you get that dual tone quad LED flash in the middle. The camera module protrudes from the back slightly, so it will definitely rock on any flat surface you place it on. If you're trying to type or do anything on your phone, on your desk, it's going to be rocking back and forth. It's a thing, it's something other people care about. I don't give a Anyway, dual cameras at the back, 12 megapixels each. Not the most flattering specs you'd hear of a camera. We have Huawei doing 3 cameras at the back, one of them actually being a 40 megapixel camera. So if you're looking for mind-blowing specifications and numbers, you won't find them here. But if you're looking for a proper camera, a good camera, actually one of the best cameras on any smartphone, then you're watching the right video. Now iPhone XS takes some of the best photos that you'll see on any smartphone camera, as you should expect really from these high-end Apple devices. The color accuracy especially is really good, and that's something Apple has prided itself in. That has been one of their strong points over the years, color accuracy. And the iPhone XS is really making a case for itself, at least in that regard. The color science and sharpness and dynamic range are all top-notch. The bigger sensors have also improved the low-light photography. It's almost perfect now. And you still get that 2x lossless zoom thanks to that secondary telephoto camera at the back. It's a really good point-and-shoot camera. And it also gives you that shallow depth of field, that natural looking bokeh, especially if you have the subject very close to the camera. It gives you that natural looking, blur in the background, that bokeh effect, almost like what you'd get from a DSLR. It's really good, and it can do this even without using portrait mode. And then just like Google and Huawei, Apple is using software a lot in photography, and that's the main explanation why phones like this and phones like Google Pixel with 1 camera at the back are doing much better than phones like Huawei with 3 cameras and 40 megapixel sensors at the back. So software has really been an integral part in smartphone photography, at least in 2018, and I think moving forward. So that A12 Bionic chip and iOS 12 are working hand in hand to improve features that are there in the previous iPhone X, and also bring new features, completely new features, which are really great for smartphone photography. For instance, portrait mode has really improved from last year. It's now doing much better with the colors and the edge detection. It's now able to recognize edges much better and provide that smooth blur in the background, and the sharpness in the foreground and the blur in the background. Everything just looks better, almost like something you'd get out of a DSLR. What's new though is the adjustable aperture after the fact. So you take a photo in portrait mode, and then you go into edit mode, and then you get a slider with which you can change the amount of blur or the level of blur in the background, while the foreground just stays the same. It stays sharp and color accurate and everything, and the blur in the background can vary from very blurry to less blur. That is really cool, and only iPhone XS and XS Max can do that. it's mind-blowing. And then Apple also added something called Smart HDR, which is just a polite or cool or fancy name of just saying aggressive HDR, because that's what it is for me. It's a bit more aggressive than what we had last year, and sometimes it gets too aggressive, but most of the time it really makes the colors pop, and it maintains sharpness in both the highlights and the shadow areas in a photo, and it makes the photo really look cool and sharp from corner to corner. It's a really good feature, except when it's overdone. For example, in the front-facing camera, Smart HDR has been overdone, and it's actually becoming a scandal called Beautygate, where people are complaining that the front-facing camera on the iPhone XS and the XS Max is putting some kind of a beauty mode. It's actually a beauty mode because when it over smoothens the face and gives you an impression of something which is not the real you, that's a beauty mode right there, and that's what people are complaining about. But it's something Apple will fix quickly with a software update, and it should be fine after that. Otherwise, everything else is fine about this camera. It's really cool. Smart HDR in general, it's working very well in most of the photos. And then they also added motion detection, which really takes that A12 Bionic chip into beast mode. So you're taking a photo of something or someone, most probably a moving subject like a human being or an animal, and then when it detects motion, it quickly takes very many photos, like 8 or 10 photos so quickly, and then displays the one it thinks is the best of the bunch to you. But when you go into edit mode, you can actually pick a different one out of the 10 or 8 photos it took so fast without you even noticing. It's very ludicrous. Anyway, in smartphone photography generally, it'd be hard pressed to find a better smartphone camera than this. Maybe Pixel 2 or Pixel 3, but that's about it. This is a firm number 2 or number 3, depending on whether the Pixel 3 is better than this. I haven't tried it yet, but according to many blogs and many vlogs I've seen and read, that's probably a better camera, but this one then takes a firm number 2. But as far as I know and as far as I'm concerned, this is only second to the Pixel 2, period. The iPhone XS is also a beast when it comes to video recording, thanks to that A12 Bionic chip, that powerful processor, and the dual optically stabilized cameras at the back. This phone easily takes the top spot in terms of smartphone video recording. It's capable of shooting footage in 4K up to 60 frames per second, which is nuts. And then the videos you get out of this thing are also sharp and color accurate and consistent in contrast, and of course stable thanks to the optical image stabilization. And then you have Slowmo on this thing, which is now improved from last year. 240 frames per second at 1080p is really more than what people give this phone credit for. Because in the past we used to have Slowmo footage. We've had Slowmo footage in many phones, even in the Poco phone, a $300 phone. But most of the time you get footage in 720p, in 480p, and just low resolution footage, which is only good for social media and stuff like that. But if you want to get professional and high quality footage in Slowmo, you'd have to go to the iPhone XS, which shoots up to 1080p at 240 frames per second. Then to record good video, you also need good audio. And I'll be happy to announce that this phone also takes the best audio. It has actually 3 microphones on board. One is here in the speaker grill, there's another one down below here, and then the other one is right behind here in that camera module. And all of them combine to do stereo sound recording, which records the best sound you'll ever record on any smartphone, period. And that for me is enough to make the iPhone XS and the XS Max the best video recording smartphone of 2018 at least. The front-facing camera is also really good in just as many aspects as the back camera is, and it's really cool with colors, with accuracy, with sharpness, all that stuff. Actually, the only issue I have with the front-facing camera is that smoothing effect, that smart or over-aggressive HDR. That's the only issue for me. But otherwise, this is a really good selfie camera. I'm not really a selfie person, but I've tried a couple of selfies with it, and I can say I haven't seen a better selfie camera than this one. Alright, so in conclusion, if you're buying this phone for the camera, if you're buying it for photos and videos, vlogging, even a YouTube channel, then I totally recommend this phone. Totally. It's expensive, but if you're like me and you care so much about the quality of photos and you really pay so much attention to quality of video and photos you're taking and all the extra features like portrait mode, which are really cool, and then you love other things about the iPhone, then this is a totally good phone to buy. Although I'll advise against buying the 64 gig variant, because if you want high quality footage and photos, then that 64 gigs will fill up faster than you think, really. For instance, if you want to shoot videos in 4K at 30 frames per second, it takes about 170 MB for 1 minute clip. So if you shoot a 10-minute clip in 4K, that's already 2 gigs almost of storage. And 64 gigs is not very far from 2 gigs, so I think you know where I'm going with this. So if you bang this phone for the camera, if you're going to be doing a lot of video and photo shooting, then I'd suggest go for the 256 gig or the 512 gig. That will serve you right. Also because these phones don't have expandable storage. Also, if you have a Windows computer and you're trying to move footage from the phone to your PC to edit using maybe Adobe Premiere or something, all the best. That's not the easiest thing you can do, but that's usually the narrative with these Apple devices, but you'll figure it out. Anyway, like I said, for the camera, this thing is a major go from me. For other things, I'm not sure. I'm still putting together the full review, so I'll have you answer in that. So make sure to subscribe not to miss that one. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until the next one, my name is Chris, and I'll talk to you guys soon.